My name is Lorelei Rosser, and I am the Go for Glass president and founder. And this entire project, the Mentoring Certification Program, is kind of my baby. It's one of the first things I wanted to do with Go for Glass, but I didn't have the resource or help or time. This video will have some content related to me explaining the 5 mentoring sessions that are recorded and will be posted on the 16th. However, it's also going to have a lot of my personal insights. If you're just looking to learn solid content, what you'll find in here is mostly personal musings, but I wanted to share them. Anyway, you've been warned. I'll try to keep this to 10 minutes or less. I took a communications class in college. I think it was last year. And my professor said something that has stuck with me ever since. If you've at all studied for the DECA exam, you've probably heard of the term planned obsolescence. It's the idea that you purposefully design a product or a service to be rendered unusable or no longer useful to a consumer so that they're encouraged to go out and buy a new one. My professor said something the very first day of the class, and it was, "I aim to be fully useless to you by the end of the quarter." And that really stuck with me. She was a brilliant communicator. This was a public speaking class. I took it because I had public anxiety when speaking. And she had a real passion for teaching. Her mindset in the classroom was, at the end of the day, I should gatekeep nothing. I should tell you everything I know. Because you'll take it and you'll run with it. And you'll grow. And hopefully you'll take those same lessons, you'll pass them on to the next person and the next person. And then suddenly we have this giant interconnected web of learning and wisdom and hard-earned knowledge. I will be recording 5 different sessions, and I'll go over the scope of them in just a moment. But to be transparent ahead of time, in case you're wondering for a preparatory thing, I wanted to explain how this will work. Each of these sessions are scheduled for July 15th. I will not be editing them. I will not be cropping them. It will be entirely raw and real. Sessions recorded will not necessarily be the most polished thing. You may hear me stutter. I have a slight anxiety stutter. You may hear me pause. You might hear some back and forth where I'm not understanding fully the student's question. I'm being totally upfront about it. The videos will be at minimum 30 minutes long, because that I wanted to show you the real start and end. I didn't want to just jump into it and so you miss the early beginning, because establishing that rapport at the very beginning is very important. And I didn't want you to miss the end, because how you wrap up and how you set your call to action for next steps is one of the strongest ways to set your student up for success. I have all 5 of these sessions scheduled for one day, so it's a little ambitious. And some of them are back-to-back and some of them have gaps. Some of the videos will have 15 minutes in the beginning, where I'm just sitting in the Discord call and I'm just talking you through. I might have a Google Doc on my monitor. I'll probably have a lot of split tabbing going on. And I'll go through and I'll explain to you my objectives for that session. Or if I have any concerns, or if I have any backup plans. I'll walk you through as much as possible in those 15 minutes. Other sessions will have 15 minutes after. For these, if the student is available, I will invite them to stick around and to talk it out. If they have any feedback, I'll collect that. Otherwise, if they can't stick around, I'll tell you, how do I think I did? Where could I have improved? What are some things that I tried in this session that I maybe didn't quite like, or maybe I did, maybe I tried something new. My hope with these 5 mentoring videos is that you will get a deeper understanding of what it actually means to carry out a session. A lot of students think it's an info dump or it's a feedback dump. It is not either of those things. It is an active collaboration with that student where you're trying to give them all of your information and all of your knowledge. You're trying to be planned into obsolescence. However, you can't overwhelm them. I've tried it. It doesn't work. There might be one or two students who just really work well with a lecture, but they'll establish that with you ahead of time. I believe it is the first video that we'll go over, and I'll show you the agenda in a second. That will be about 5 minutes longer than the 15 minutes extra, so it'll be about, that would be 50 minutes long. And that will also go over the use of a Menti file, which is what I personally use, and I'm not going to require it for mentors to use the exact same one as me, but you will be required to have a Menti file to some degree. So, let's look at the 5 different videos that we'll be looking at. First and foremost, first thing in the morning, I will be doing a session for design focus, specifically with a paper. DECA did switch, so all of the papers I look at will be 20 pages, except for the postmortem. This is also the video where I will go over the Menti file. Next up, I'm going to be having a session with drafting and foundations. This student is in a group, but only one member can attend. I thought this was going to be an interesting twist, so I wanted to show you that. When we're talking about drafting and foundations, this is going to be a lot more engagement and collaborative in working with the student. All of these projects I have plans for. A minimum of 15 minutes of preparatory work goes into each of these. I've put a little bit extra in so that you'll have some visuals to look at, because this is meant to be a teaching session. But at the very minimum, 15 minutes of prep has gone into these. Next up, I'll do a video on establishing next steps. This is going to be with an FOR. He has a beautiful sorting system, and I'm really hoping the student consents to me sharing that. I've already had one session with this student. He has a really fun idea. It's a really strong project base. He's already gotten through most of his research. I will double check with him tonight to make sure that we're still good, but tomorrow we'll be mostly focusing on how do we take research and how do we start moving into the drafting section? How do we make our next steps? How do we establish that super strong forward momentum? After that, I actually had the pleasure of mentoring the student 2 years now. The first year, I mentored him a lot. There were multiple sessions. He was one of the students I learned the most from as a teacher. And he did IMC, and I think he finalized his first year. I don't know. But then last year, which I guess was this past competitive season, I met with him a couple times, and he ended up placing first at ICDC. I'm really glad that he's letting me do a postmortem on his paper. IMC has switched to using a pitch deck and not a paper, but I did want you to see how we can deconstruct constructively feedback on a finished paper. Guaranteed, his paper, I'm going to be super nitpicky because there's not a ton of things to change. In fact, I might ask him if he has an older version of his paper he wants me to deconstruct instead. But that should be pretty interesting. And then finally, I'll be meeting with a student. I think I've done one session with her before. I could be wrong. I meet with hundreds of students. And she's doing an IMC this year, and she's doing a pitch deck. The idea here is mostly focused on design because I know there are a lot of questions surrounding pitch decks, but we're also going to be talking about things like information flow, argumentative versus persuasive graphics, all that fun stuff. So all 5 students have consented to their voice, their name, their project being put on our YouTube. And I would like to take a moment and address privacy concerns. I struggled with the decision to post recorded mentoring sessions or not for a while. I've been thinking about it for weeks. It's why I put it off until the last minute, because I had to weigh the pros and cons. Ethically speaking, as a mentor, we have the duty to protect the privacy of the students we engage with no matter how small the interaction is. If you have a question asked to you by a student and you think it's super insightful, if it's super specific to the project, you probably can't ask or answer that question elsewhere without getting consent from the student. If it's super broad, how do I ace the DECA exam? That's fine. If you are going to ever go down the path of recorded mentoring sessions, or you are using a paper that another student created as an example, get their consent. And be aware that even if they do consent, you still have a duty to protect as much personal information as possible. I'll be working with each of these students to make sure they're properly redacting their papers and their projects to my standards, and those may be higher than their own standards. If I hear anything about the personal information of these students being used against them, I will take down their session as well as all other sessions. I want to be dead clear about this. This program has been a pleasure and a joy to create, and I'm very proud of what we've made. But I cannot stress to you the level of importance surrounding it. And I think many students underestimate how much work goes into mentoring to be somebody who makes a positive impact. I don't really have a happy note or like a bright note to end on. I just want to say that if you sat through this, you obviously want to be a mentor. And I look forward to collaborating with you. And I am here as a resource to support you. This third season will be my final competitive season, where I'll be publicly advertising and everything. I might do a few papers in the next year, one from each event. But this will be mostly my final competitive season mentoring. After that, I'll be focused almost entirely on helping train new mentors, on improving this program. The currently recorded videos are great, but they are not the highest quality polish. So I'll be refilming over the next 2 years or so. I'll be expanding. I'll be building. It's been incredibly fulfilling. And I look forward to having more mentors to work with. Thank you so much for supporting Go for Glass.